Spurs have drawn Atletico Madrid in the Champions League next round of the tournament, and here are some good takes, some bad takes, and some worrying takes for Spurs fans as of today before we kick off against Fulham. Hello everyone, I'm Swigz. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to Swigz Talks Spurs. And today we're going to go into a little bit of a video just I thought it would be interesting to make in relation to us drawing Atletico Madrid in the round of 16 for the Champions League. Now, this is probably one of those games where it's not great, but it could have been so much worse for Spurs. Um, but in this video, I'm gonna give my kind of initial reaction, which is probably now. I'm gonna give maybe a breakdown of what Atletico will bring, what Spurs will bring, if anything, at this rate, as well then as some highlighting maybe some key battles that I think will be interesting to in the fold, and then kind of just to tie it all together, really, is it a good draw overall for us? Whereas I suppose I'll start on that. Is it a good draw for us? Yes. I think it is. I think it's a good draw for us in the sense that it could have been worse. I think in the sense of Spurs in Europe this year, we've looked like a different animal. We finished fourth in the Champions League group stages, which no one, I think, gave us a prayer in. And I think even us Spurs fans were thinking, well, how did we get so lucky with this? But yeah, so I think, is it a good draw? Yes. Will it be tough? Absolutely. It's no walk in the park at all going to a Diego Simeone side. And so it'll really make things interesting, I think, especially with the first game for us being away at the Wanda Metropolitan, which, if we remember, the last time we were there, we were in the Champions League final against Liverpool, and within the first couple of minutes, we got given a penalty against us when Sissoko handballed it. Um, and ultimately, we lost, obviously, the Champions League final then. So we don't have a great record in Madrid, in that stadium, at least in recent memory. But I think it's the first time we're meeting Atletico in the Champions League in since about, is it 1963 or so? As far as I am aware, yeah, 1963. Sorry, I just looked it up there. Since we've met them in this, so it'll be interesting to see how we get on with that. But I'm going to go into now with maybe some like breakdown of both sides. So I'm going to start Atletico. So what do Atletico bring to the Champions League? They bring solidity at the back, a Diego Simeone hothead on the touchline, and the they've kind of in recent years they've always nearly, if you want for a metaphor, they've always been the bridesmaid, never the bride. Even in La Liga, it's dominant. It's always Madrid of Real and Barcelona. They're the two, and Atletico are always third wheeling those two. That's the history of them. Simeone has brought success to them. Since he's come over there, he'd want it for the amount of money that he's on. Um, but they are a solid, defensively well organized team. I think they've shown in years gone by they're a good team in the knockout rounds. They have, yeah, they don't go, really far into the competition, maybe at semis or finals, but they're always there around 16. They'll occasionally get into the quarters, but usually they might bow out then. But they're a really good, I suppose they're a good enough side to get there, but they're not good enough to get over the line, really. Um, but yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how they kind of set up against Spurs in that sense. Defensively, like I said, very well strong, very solid at that back. Midfield, they're really, really robust. Koke this year, from what I've seen, he's had a new lease of life. He's not the only one in the midfield. There's a young 21-year-old. Is he not Pablo Escobar? What's his name? I can't remember his name. Spurs were linked to him in the summer, anyways. He looks very, very good player, even though I can't remember him. And then obviously going up top, that's where Atletico can really do damage. Lookman coming in from Atletico has hit the ground running. Simeone seems to love him. He seems to be settled in savagely well in life in Madrid. Sorloth as well is a real aerial threat, and then you also have the likes of Griezmann, who yes, he's aging, yes, he's kind of maybe in his twilight years now of his career, but he could still ping a ball, across the pitch or get in it to the right position and nick a handy square ball goal if need be. So they're still dangerous. Don't make no mistake. Atletico Madrid are a dangerous side in knockout competition, but they're beatable. Now, if we had our full squad, I'd be saying we'd walk them. We'd walk them. We'd get through them. It would be a stressful maybe first away leg, but we'd make light work of them at home at our ground. However, that being said, now with Spurs, this is a huge test for us. It is huge in the sense of we've hardly anyone available for injury, or available because they're fucking injured. Obviously, Danso and Porro are making their way back now. Hopefully, they'll start the game again tomorrow against Fulham. That'll be interesting to see. Um, but yeah, Spurs this year, the one good thing we have going for us in the Champions League is that we're so much better. We were better than most teams. Now I know my head goes straight back. How we didn't lose the game against Monaco, I don't know. We had the game against Monaco, PSG. Obviously, I think we were a bit unlucky hosting with PSG. Dortmund was relatively easy enough to get through. So those are three teams I suppose that would be, bar maybe the exception of PSG. The other two teams we'd make a good game out of, but we're better than. And I'd classify Atletico Madrid in those types of that group of clubs as well. The kind of not the elite of the elite, the big ones, but maybe category B, then under that. Obviously, this year with Spurs, we've been absolutely diabolical. There's no two cents about it. We are a shell of a club at this moment in time. So yeah, so that's one thing that I think it'll be a huge test for us to actually even put in performance and to even get a result. Next up, if we do actually put a performance in against Atletico and win, we face Newcastle or Barca. I think Barca will make light work of Newcastle, and so then it'll be a Barca. If we are through Barca Spurs, Barca will just annihilate us, absolutely annihilate us. On the upside, if we do win, we could face like if we do beat Atletico, we face Barca. We could don't think we would in a month of Sundays. Could we beat them? But there's always a chance in this game. Next up, then, the only thing that I think a worrying point for Spurs would be the emotion. Now, Simeone, as we know, he is a hugely passionate and emotional manager. It is unbelievable to see. I love that about managers. There's nothing worse than seeing an emotionless, just like kind of emotionally checked out gaffer on the side of the field who doesn't have anything about them. That's why I loved the likes of Mourinho. I loved Conte. I do like Tudor now because they're that bit more passionate, that bit more. It's a character. It's a bit of their personality too. You don't want someone who's just sitting on the sideline, hands in pockets, saying like, "Yep, go here, go there." Like, that for me, anyways. That you might be different. That's just my view on a manager like that. But we can't get too emotional. And the minute you think of emotional and Spurs, your heads would be right in thinking Romero, this game is tailored for him to get sent off. Absolutely tailored. Unless he needs to play an absolute savage game in order to force a move then to Atletico in the summer, which I hope he does from that point of view. But yeah, I can see him uh, getting just sent off straight away, straight away. Maybe not in the first game at the Metropolitan, but I definitely think at not at White Hart Lane, but at our home ground, whatever that's going to be called in years to come. Maybe called the Championship ground, to be honest, at this rate. Um, but yeah, we can't get too emotional. We have hotheads in our team with Romero, Palhinha, even Gallagher to some extent. And he might be able to be he'll be fired up to prove a point against his former side. Um, but yeah, so with Spurs, that's that. And the only other thing I want to say with Spurs in that game, we need to be clinical. We need to be clinical. We're not going to get many chances. We can't create for love nor money. So whatever chance we get, we need to be clinical and put them to the sword in that sense. And that kind of brings me on to the next point, which is all about the key battles. So where do I actually think Spurs are going to be kind of more dominant or lacking in? One of the first thing I think is our attack versus their low block line. If you ever see Atletico play, it's like they nearly have everyone behind the ball and then hit them on the hit the team on the counter. Spurs, we're shocking with we can't play against low block teams in the Premier League who have, albeit lesser quality players. You know, the minute I think low block, Burnley straight away, and Burnley gave us a good game, a great game. They should have won the game, in fairness. So how are we going to manage against a back line that is more experienced, Champions League proven, and just overall better than what we have going forward? Our attack is useless. It's red raw useless. Even though I love Tell and the rest of them, I probably couldn't really care less about him. I do. I really like Tell. I think he will come good. Um, but I think he needs a loan spell for a year in the Premier League and then bring him in next year. But he might get that, you know, he might even get a loan spell next year in the Premier League when we're in the Championship, and then, you know, it'll be like a new signing once we bounce back up from being relegated. Um, but yeah, so our attack versus their low block will be an interesting battle. Also, middle of the park, like I said before, Koke looks like a revelation signing even in his peak years. You have also the likes of that young kid that I can't remember, the 21-year-old. He's a really, really good central midfielder, the Spanish lad. Um, so he'll be, interesting to see how they cope with that. Um, but yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how the likes of Polinia, or how we even set up Polinia, Sarr, Gallagher, whether he's in at the 8, Basuma's in at the 8 or the 6, how they're kind of how they manage that because Koke can dictate the game anyways on his own. So it'll be interesting to see can we nullify him in that. And then last but not least, then well last two ones then actually within the battles. Discipline and set pieces. Discipline, I suppose that ties into us being more emotional, getting them in check. Simeone, we know he is the well, Atletico Madrid, I suppose, as a whole, are the Spanish Arsenal. They are masters of the dark arts. Simeone is very like Arteta in the sense that he will placate to the referee. He will do everything that is within the rules of making sure that his side get over the line and win. Likewise with Arteta, where Arteta will rig the system completely, but it doesn't matter as long as they win. And to their effect, that's what they've done this year. You've seen it even last week with Gabriel getting absolutely, you know, murdered in the back and shoved like he never been shoved before against Muani, but allegedly then it's a free. But that could be just down to Arsenal, you wouldn't know. So yeah, discipline hugely key for both sides. Both sides, Atletico Madrid players, they'll need to keep their discipline in check as well as Spurs. The Madrid players themselves, probably all of them, could be emotional in that sense. Whereas with us, we only have two or three that you'd say, oh yeah, they need to get their emotion in check or they're going to get sent off. They're going to cost us the game. Um, so yeah, so it's going to be interesting battle, I think, with that. And then obviously for Spurs, our only threat is set pieces. We don't have a threat going forward, but our only threat is set pieces. So how we set up with that, how Atletico Madrid maybe handle it, I think it'd be really interesting to see, especially in the first leg, to see how we go about it. Are we a threat from them? Because Atletico have a really, they have a tall back line of defense. I'm thinking the likes of Hanko, he's maybe 6'2", 6'3". Lenormand, I think he's 6'3", 6'4". Like those two even themselves are two big units of defenders. Obviously, Jimenez, a Uruguayan absolute monster of a defender, and will run through a brick wall for Simeone. To be interesting, that's three straight away in the back line already defending, and behind them they have Oblak, who's one of the best, I think, in the game. Yeah, we might have slightly come off a little bit, but that comes with age. But I still think like they have those three in defence and Jan Oblak in goal. We, if we're lucky, will have Romero, Van de Ven, and if he plays a back three, Danso or Radu Dragosin. And behind us, we've Italian Spaghetti Mario, who will let in anything in the sense of Vicario. Vicario, he's not great with his hands. He's passionate. Again, will not knock him for being passionate. Love passion in the game, but this season he's been very, very poor. Very, very poor. Um, So yeah, be interesting just to see how we handle all that. So overall, is it a good draw? Yes, it is a good draw for us. Can we win? Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Um, I think we can draw at their ground, and I do think we can win at home. But by God, it will be a boring watch. I cannot see it being entertaining at all. I really can't. If we go 1-0 up, but then again, if we go 1-0 up, Tudor could just stick to his guns instead of playing his three, or instead of playing his back five to defend, or fucking just sit and grind out the result. He might just say, "We'll continue our 3-4-2-1," and up we go. But overall, I'm happy we got Atletico. I think the first leg will tell a lot from both sets of sides, as they always do, and I think we can win. I do. I think maybe looks blind, absolute naivety to it, but I do think we can. I don't see. I see us getting a draw at most at their ground, but I can see us winning against Atletico at home. That's probably just blindfold optimism, but yeah, overall, Spurs will go through. Across the two legs, probably I reckon 1-1 for the first leg and then 1-0 for the second. So 2-1. I'm thinking that we're going to go through against Madrid. So then it'll just be an easy enough game then against the likes of Newcastle or Barcelona. And then after that, probably if we get through them, just a cheeky game against Arsenal. But if history's proven us anything, sure, we're grand against Arsenal. We don't fold, or we're able for those big games. Yeah, we sure are. As long as Eze's not playing, we're grand. We might have a chance. But yeah, anyways, that's all jokes, by the way, to anyone who thinks I'm actually being serious, because there's probably some people out there thinking that, geez, we actually are serious. I'm not, by country mile. But yeah, anyways, let me know what your thoughts down below. Are you happy with the draw? Who would you prefer? Would you have preferred a Bayern, a Madrid, a Galatasaray? Who would you have preferred instead of Atletico Madrid? Or are you happy that we got Simeone's side? Are they the best of a bad bunch or the worst of a good bunch? Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up. That would be much appreciated. Obviously, trying to grow the channel a bit more. That comes, and I hope you've enjoyed kind of maybe more of the videos coming out in the last week or 2 weeks maybe. And yeah, if you have, hit that red button as well, subscriber move. That would be amazing. That would be absolutely savage. Um, and yeah, I will see you in the next video, as I want to see how hopefully this weekend Spurs can beat Fulham. But yeah, if you haven't seen that already, do check out my previous video. I go through all what I wanted to talk about with predictions of Fulham, their threats going forward, their uh, weaknesses, if any, that we can exploit, as well as the mess and what I think it could lead to with Spurs in that sense. So yeah, if you liked the video, hit thumbs up, like, share, comment, and subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks very much for watching.